Hello everyone, how's it going? My name is Dewi and this is my brother.
Why?
Today we're here to talk about Daredevil Born Again, Season 2, Episode 7, The Hateful Darkness. So this is your chance now to leave before we get into any spoilers.
3, 2, 1, lawyers.
Okay, so very dark episode I thought this time. It was kind of really themed on the trial of Karen Page, who has been taken from the very end of the last episode.
Yeah, Fisk is planning to put her on trial to try and win the city back over, blaming her on things like starting the riot and helping with the destruction of the ship and all that.
Yeah.
And obviously she's put on trial. He tries to find basically accused of everything.
Yeah, all the crimes that she's ever had. But she's got a bit of more of a personal reason because she has killed people that's been very close to her face.
Yes.
One of them being Wesley, who you've seen in the previous episode. But actually, speaking of old faces, Officer Brett, who was the officer back in the original Daredevil show, it was cool to finally see him back. I couldn't believe it, honestly, because I always thought to myself this entire time, why have we not see him the entire time? We got people like Cherry and stuff being close to Matt, but Brett was there in the original, so I thought, okay, maybe we'll see him, and we finally have him, so he's still around. So I'm really happy that we got to see him again.
He lets Karen, leave the cell to talk to Matt about Fisk. Apparently, Fisk is getting quite scared now because he's losing control of the city, which I think you could kind of see happening for the last couple episodes, but now it's really ramped up after that riot.
Because of Vanessa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's losing control, and the governor's not exactly behind Fisk anyway, but now with Charles' sort of backup and seeing Karen's trial, it's kind of swung it now in that direction of she spoke to the Attorney General on the phone to make the papers happen. She's even been tried to be assassinated.
Yes, but she was protected by Bullseye.
I always wondered, because it was pretty much the beginning of that episode, Matt did task Bullseye with something, and you're not meant to believe what.
Yeah.
So you knew something was going to happen, but you didn't know, he could have been at the jury for all we know, the trial for he could have been anywhere else.
I thought that's what it was going to be, that he was going to be on the trial and talk about things like Red Hook and Fisk's, Freeport. And how
but he was there to protect the governor instead.
Yes.
So obviously it cuts off from that. So I suspect now next episode she's going to basically, enforce this now on Fisk and getting him down.
And probably be under a lot more protection now that she knows she's trying to be assassinated.
Yeah, pretty much. So that happened on the governor side of things. Jessica Jones pays Charles a visit and basically telling him to get his goons off her and her daughter. But also, they're right. So the hint of, because we asked this last week to ourselves, her powers sort of fading away, which is interesting. So I don't know the real reason behind that. Not that they said, maybe they'll save that for another episode.
Yeah, or season 3 or something.
Yeah, because she did ask about Luke.
Yes, that was it. They were asking about Luke, and apparently he's overseas or something like that, according to Charles. But, I mean, can we really trust Charles?
Yeah, well, the thing is that he just said he's working overseas, working for them, because he did say that he's doing the job that you were going to do for us. But, it's she said no, and he's doing it now instead. But still, that's no reason for him to go after her with all those guys again.
Maybe there's some other reason.
There probably is, by the way. I think he's got the message now, don't mess with her.
Yeah.
So you've got that side of things. She meets Cherry. It's good to know that Cherry's now back. He's recovered from the hospital and stuff ever since his little heart condition. So you have the whole trial of Karen Page, Kirsten.
The trial is really interesting though, because they all go up and they make their defenses and their things against Karen for Karen, and then Matt walks in.
Yeah. And because of what Fisk said in the previous episode about Matt Murdock as a hero, it's he can't really go back on that. It's he can't target the person, especially not publicly, a person he's just praised
and saved his life.
Yeah.
So I think that was a really clever play.
So it's a pretty untouchable sort of guy, except, as soon as they were set, all the cameras are off, so in the basement, in the car lot.
Yeah.
That whole fight going on. You had the good policemen and stuff like that, still trying to help
Yeah,
out.
trying to help out. Which I
Yeah.
thought was pretty cool, because you did see in some other episodes the regular policemen saying that they weren't big fans of the anti-vigilante task force, and now you're actually seeing them do something about it.
They actually want to follow the system and do it right, whereas the anti-vigilante task force just take whoever they want to take and do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
So you had that whole firefight down there. Yeah, I thought that was interesting because Matt now got shot and he's in the church where we saw Jessica.
Yes, walk in.
I think that's probably that bit from the trailer where she said, you know, I'm not carrying you, if that's what you're expecting. It's like, oh, God, it's pretty funny. But yeah, so we've covered that aspect. Daniel and BB Urich.
Yes. Daniel sort of, throughout this whole episode, is on the fence about whether he should.
I think he's been a bit on the choice of the whole series, though. He's been a bit like, you've got to make decisions, you know, to help us out. But he's also trying to protect her. And this episode, I think it just came to the climax of which decision he chose and the consequences of that decision has led down to.
And in the end, he chooses to save BB, not hand BB over to Buck and give her back a phone and tell her to, you know, run away.
Don't tell me anything, so there's no reason. You know, he can't actually give Buck any information because he knew he'd probably break, and the less he knows, the better.
Yeah. And he ends up obviously meeting Buck, to which he says, you know, I don't have her. Apparently that was a birthday party. And then obviously gets beaten up really badly and shot. Buck doesn't seem like he really wanted to.
No, that's the thing, right? I think because they've had I think throughout this series, especially, they've had a sort of they haven't really got anything in common, but you know they sort of like each other for their, you know, being around and stuff. You know, Buck even said to Heather, oh God, we'll get to Heather in a second, but he did say to her at one of the dining areas they had in the previous episode that, you know, he's a good lad, and you sort of, you know, get used to him. He has a certain charm about him. So him pulling the trigger at the very end and beating him up, he said he doesn't want to do it because he really doesn't want to do it, but he knows he has to. And as Daniel said to him, well, what are the chances one day you're going to be in the same position I am, that a gun's going to be over your head?
Yeah.
So it depends how useful Buck really does become later on.
Yeah,
and what this will do to him later on after doing this to Daniel.
That's really because obviously he's had to have done things like this before, obviously, but with how on the fence he was about to be,
I think it's because he got more connected with him.
Yeah,
and like anyone else, he's just been hired to go out and kill someone, doesn't know a thing about them and all this. But he actually had a bit more of a connection with Daniel throughout the season.
And I think if Fisk asks him to do things like that again, kill more people that he actually has some sort of attachment to, then maybe he won't stop working for Fisk, but he'll be more on the fence about it as the time goes on, if Fisk keeps giving him jobs like that to do.
It was pretty brutal, because that's how it really ended off the episode. Because I don't know, I was kind of like, he probably will do it, but at the same time, there's a chance he won't. You know, he may just, you know, tell him just to get out. I don't want to see you in, you know, in New York again. You just need to leave, get a new name, whatever. I just don't want to see you here again. Yeah, that was pretty brutal. Now on to the Heather side of things. Psychological downfall to her stealing a ring, but obviously Fisk finds out and she just took it. So I don't know if he's. I don't get that.
Why? What was the point? Why did she steal it? And then, what, did she steal it and then put it back?
I know, but he knew about it. It was either put it back in the wrong way. I say wrong way. It's a ring, but I think something somewhat happened to it.
Yeah.
Fisk knew it was her especially, and then just gave it to her anyway. But then her descent into her own madness is really shown when she has that. It's a psychological interview. It's more of an interrogation with Karen Page.
Interrogation for her or against her?
Both of them, yeah. Well, but the thing is, Karen riles her up more because she starts slapping around and all this business. And it's like, what is happening here?
And then you get the shots where she's basically teasing her about, Karen teasing Heather about Matt. And then you see Muse in the background, which is quite eerie, actually. To see him constantly looming over her throughout all this season. And then she just sort of loses it and starts, talking to Karen about the people she's killed and all that, and Wesley and all that stuff.
It's pretty interesting stuff. But yeah, this episode was focused a lot on the trial, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think it ended off certain things, Daniel being one of them and his choice.
Yes.
BB now has the chip, but she now has as evidence, which was the Northern Star guy that was on the boat. With that, and the governor turned against Fisk as well. Everything, like, I don't know how we cannot get out of this.
Yeah.
There's too many now areas he needs to stop from happening. Like, if he focuses on the governor, then this evidence is probably going to get out and anyone's going to find out anyway. Or he tries to focus down on the chip with Buck, but then the governor's going to be like, you're still out anyway, because after you're assassinating me, it's just not happening.
Not only just that, but also the trial with Karen. Because if that fails on his end and Karen gets freed, that's only going to inspire more people to protest and go out. So maybe he goes out of office, but he'll still have a chokehold. Like, the anti-vigilante task force will still work for him, and really that's all he needs to keep the city under his control, even if he's already been booted out as mayor.
Yeah, is it maybe a trial of Matt, but it's a trial of like the whole system as it is now. That's what Kirsten and Matt tried to do, and when they were talking to the anti-vigilante guys, you know, basically trying to make them basically the bad guys. The system is wrong. And Fisk is wrong for him putting it in place.
Try and get them to slip up as well, like she does with the guy that has the scar on his face.
I was like, oh yeah, we were there for some like, you know, routine inspection or something like that. Really? You need that many guns to do that? And it's just like, oh god. And it's like, how
seems like a lot of firepower for a blind man.
Yeah. And everyone started like giggling and laughing because it's like, yeah. And you could see Powell in the background just sort of like shaking his head a bit like, oh no, this is not good.
Yeah.
This puts down the laptop. He's not happy with that outcome, so he's gonna have to. So yeah, there's 3 things that he's gonna have to really deal with in order for at least not one of them to really bite him in the ass.
Exactly. It feels like he can't win. Like, there's no way for him to get out of this now, which is why. But he still has to have some sort of major threat in the 3rd season. So maybe it'll be, as I said, he'll be taken out of office technically, but he'll still have a chokehold on the city through things like the anti-vigilante task force. Basically, just go back to being a massive, criminal.
We'll have a lot of power even when he was a criminal before, to be honest.
Or maybe he'll make some sort of deal that'll give him, like, protection from all these different things.
I don't know, but this was the 7th. We've only got one more episode now.
Yeah.
And we know season 3 has happened. We've got more openings now, like Luke Cage coming back now. Jessica sticking around, because obviously she asked about that whole thing. I think the whole Charles thing is going to expand probably into other areas.
Yeah.
With Fisk, I don't know. I don't know what other, like... Because if they try not so much deal with Fisk in this season... Who've they got to go next in terms of, let's say, a villain? If we're just putting like Fisk to the side for now, I'm not saying put him like to the side as if he's not forgotten about. Like, he'll still play a major role, but like if he really has his hard time in the office, in the mayor's office, next episode we end up the season where he's get taken down. That means he's going to have to rethink his whole plans for dealing with the city.
Well,
and that would be an opening for some new villain to come in to sort of deal with until he rethinks those plans.
There are some answers that won't happen because of Sony, and that would be people like Tombstone or Hammerhead. But they're Spider-Man villains, and Sony wouldn't let them be in anything else. So it would only really be Charles, I guess. And
doesn't really strike me as a real villain though. I don't know. Unless they brought back the hand, which we know has been, I think, somewhat teased in Spider-Man, so whether there's a thing there, I have no idea.
Or Heather becomes Muse and we actually get Muse back. Well,
I have no idea. But I really don't know what's going on in that aspect.
Yeah.
I'm very curious to see where that's heading now. And yes, she's getting more psychotic now, but whether that means she will become a Muse or she'll become some kind of villain that we just have not seen yet, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of things that still need to be, I think, tied down maybe before the season end, like Buck and
Yes.
thing with Daniel there, BB getting the evidence out, Governor turning against Fisk, the trial itself.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting to see unfold, I think.
Yeah. I think we've tied up every aspect. I mean, Bullseye, we don't know where he is
Oh,
now.
no, we don't. He just walked away from the mansion.
I mean,
thing,
that's
so-
the last time we're going to see him.
Probably.
Because, like Matt did say, you know, if I'm letting you go, but, you know, if you really want to do one good deed, then you'll do this thing.
And he just said, do whatever you want, die, live, doesn't really matter
So
to
maybe
him.
after that, he is doing his own thing now, at least for a while.
Maybe that's where it ties into the Bullseye.
Yeah, I've heard that
TV.
there might be a Bullseye show. I don't know how concrete that is, but if there is, maybe that's like a spin-off
Yeah.
that I might do possibly. It'd be interesting to see. But that, I think, is everything to cover.
Yeah.
But I've really enjoyed this episode. It's very dark. There's a lot happening, and I think it's set up a lot of things ready for the next episode.
Yes.
And honestly, the next season, to be honest. But I'll be interested to see how the show ends. So, can you think of anything else?
No, I don't think so.
In that case, that is going to be it for me. Derry, my brother.
Oh,
I will catch you all the next video. Goodbye.